Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to All for United. This is our Sunday podcast. This is Devil's Advocate, and here I have a fantastic panel of guests here this evening. So I'm joined today by Grant, Shane, and Stu. We're here to talk all things Manchester United. We're here to talk all the latest news, transfer news, and all the latest going on with Manchester United at the moment. So great panel here today. I hope you all had a great weekend. Well, apart from Friday, of course. I hope Saturday and Sunday were okay for you. And look, we're going to get straight into it on the show. Obviously, look, lads, Man United in these coming weeks and months it's been a whirlwind. Obviously, you had the Solskjaer sack and you've had Ralf Rangnick, and it's been kind of just a massive whirlwind of emotions for all of us Man United fans at the minute. Obviously, we're going to deep dive into all that right now. Grant, firstly, just going to come to you regards this, because obviously, I suppose the first talking point I'd like to speak about tonight is the whole situation with Ralf Rangnick, and I suppose the way Man United's season has kind of been a roller coaster. He's come in, he's obviously spoken very clearly. He's been very honest in the way he's done things. He's trying to do things his own way. Obviously, now in this last kind of 2 weeks, obviously we've had the Jesse Lingard kind of debacle, like I'd call it, in terms of him wanting to leave, Ralf granting the move, the board undermining him, and not getting the deal done when, for all parties, it looked like that was the best thing to do. Ralf comes out in the press conference after the defeat to Middlesbrough, and Ralf says he wanted Lingard in the squad. And consequently, John Murtough gives Jesse Lingard the time off to, in quote-unquote, clear his head. Lingard comes out and says, I don't need my head clear, my head is clear. Grant, for you, when you look at this, like just off the bat, when you look at this situation with this Jesse Lingard kind of problem we have at the moment, where's your head at? Because we had a similar thing with Anthony Martial a couple of weeks ago. And it almost seems like Ralf Rangnick seems to be A, calling out the players, but B, calling the board's bluff as well. Where's your head at with this situation?
I genuinely am speechless as to how much of a mess things are within Manchester United Football Club. I mean, would this have happened under Sir Alex Ferguson's watch? I just want to state that as an opening bandit here, because I just genuinely can't see something like that happening under Sir Alex Ferguson. It just beggars belief, Keane. You know, somebody or some people don't want Manchester United to succeed on the pitch and off the pitch. I don't know who these people are, but they do not deserve to be employed by Manchester United Football Club, and they should not deserve to be associated with Manchester United Football Club. I really feel sorry for Ralf Rangnick, because when a manager loses their job halfway through a season, and interim manager is the phrase that's being used, because obviously Ralf is an interim, comes into the job, they really are playing with at least one, if not two hands tied behind their back before they even start. You know, they don't really have a say in the transfer market in some respects. We know already that Ralf is going to be moving up into a consultancy role, likely at the end of the year. It just seems an absolute disaster. I mean, I'm not going to talk specifically about Lingard. I know that's your question, but the Lingard-Martial thing, they're both very similar situations. There is, I said there, a divide there, kind of a misconstrued idea going in about Manchester United. There are people behind the scenes that are saying one thing and other people are saying something completely different. Who is that? Is there moles in the camp? Is there moles very much up on the board? Do the Glazers have a big say? I don't know. I think it's a mixture of so much things. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe the guys have an idea. I don't know. But I feel frustrated by the whole thing, because there's so many things off the pitch that have been so wrong with Manchester United over the last few weeks. We all know that the situation with the domestic violence and all that as well was one big talking point. We don't need this on top of it as well. Manchester United are becoming a little bit of a laughing stock. And as a Manchester United fan, I've never felt so disconnected with our team as I do right now. And I don't know about the rest of the guys, but it's very frustrating to hear this whole story, this saga with Jesse Lingard. I'm still of the opinion that Jesse Lingard should have gone in this window. You know, it was quite clear he wanted to leave. It was quite clear that he really wanted to go and join West Ham United. There was a lot of talk he wanted to join Newcastle, but I think his heart was set on going to West Ham. He really likes David Moyes. He's already been there before. You know, he's obviously on his Instagram and social media really highlighted why he loves West Ham. I just think if he wants to go, let him go. Don't let him stay there. I know saga behind the scenes has not been particularly great, and I mentioned the domestic violence situation earlier, which I think has muddied the waters, so to speak. But I still think there was enough time for Manchester United to build the youth from the youth, maybe bring in Hannibal or a couple of other guys into the first team squad for a wee bit more game time as a result of that. Keane, I don't know about you, and I don't know about Shane and Stu below, but I just feel so disillusioned and disinterested following Man United. And I love talking about United. I love talking about the teams that are coming up to play Manchester United, but I have never felt so disconnected in all my time following Manchester United as I do right now.
Yeah, disconnect, I think, is a key word there, Grant. And I think it's something that I think a lot of us were going to discuss tonight, and disconnect in so many different areas of the football club. But Shane, obviously, just on the back of what Grant said, I'm just going to bring up John Cromoda's comment because it's very concerning. We've all discussed this, on different occasions. But John says here, Shane, that his biggest worry is that he does wonder how much power Ralf Rangnick will have. He was clearly undermined when it came to Lingard. Does it concern you that he'll have that much power as a consultant? Shane, you've obviously had your doubts about Ralf Rangnick, how much of a say he'll have to work with the prospective new manager. What do you think is going to happen here? Because it seems like at the moment, the manager is not making the decisions at the minute that that manager should be making. Like, the manager should decide how much time off a player has, not someone else. He decides the team sheet, he decides everything else. Does it concern you that he's getting undermined as the interim manager? What's going to happen is he going to have that much of a say in this consultancy role, or is he just going to be just another person there to maybe, I suppose, be a puppet to this board who've kind of ran this club into the ground?
I agree a lot with what Grant said about the situation, and just about how much of a say Ralf will have as a consultant. I don't think he's going to have much power at all, to be honest. That's something I've been saying to you in the chat a few weeks now. I don't think he's going to have much say at all, because even by the title consultant, you have no power in that. He'll have their ear and he'll be able to give them his opinion and be able to give people advice what he thinks, but they don't have to take it. You know what I mean? I know an interim manager is never going to have the power to make long-lasting decisions because he's going to be gone in a few months, but I thought it might be different with Ralf if he was going to stay on after the club. But I think everything that's gone on the last couple of weeks is just going to prove he's not going to have much power at all when he goes upstairs. The Lingard situation is really annoying because I feel like everyone has just been an idiot about it. I think it's really frustrating because the exact same thing with Martial happened a few weeks ago. Surely the club and the people involved need to get their story straight. I think it's poor from Ralf to be saying these things in a presser anyway. I think that's not something that has to be said. I think the board is being ridiculous to turn around. Obviously, what seems to happen is Murtaugh's told Lingard to take a few days off, and then he's told Ralf that Lingard asked for a few days off. So he's being dishonest with the manager, which is just that's obviously going to cause problems. I know people are annoyed with Lingard coming out then and saying what he said on Twitter, but I kind of understand that, because if you think someone is lying about you, especially in football, and the fans are going to get onto you and the reaction you're going to get, you're going to want to set the record straight. So I kind of hear that from his point of view, but the whole situation is just a mess. And there's not much to say on it. Like, it's all agreed. Like, everyone could have handled it better, and they didn't. So
yeah, I think that there's definitely a line of communication there that I think that has there's been I suppose the line of communication has just been non-existent at this moment in time. And it's a question I actually want to pose to you, Stu, because recently today, Manchester United have appointed a media consultant, because a lot of this saga has happened in the media. Very well-respected journalist Raphael Hogstein has been appointed as Manchester United's media journalist to work alongside Ralf Rangnick. Do you think, is this another PR spin by the football club to try maybe get this, to try and nip this in the bud almost? Because it seems like we've had this issue with Martial a couple of weeks ago. We had this issue now currently with Lingard. And who's not to say in these next couple of months with these contract negotiations that are going on that this may get even more sour? Like, if Ralf was going to have this role at the football club, is this role of getting, I suppose, a well-respected German journalist who has kind of, I suppose, has a relationship with Ralf Rangnick, will this help us this season in terms of, you know, maybe helping the lines of communication being that bit better in terms of what we deliver to the fan base?
Yeah, look, PR across any walk of life, you have to have specialists in certain positions. And Manchester United have been crying out for a specialist PR consultant for a while now, for a long, long time. It's all right just, going to uni, understanding PR, understanding journalism, etc. I'm a journalist myself, work in the media. But you've got to have specifics. You've got to have certain qualities, certain qualifications that enable you to work in certain walks of life. And we as a club, we've demanded a proper football PR consultant for a long, long time now. So I think you'll see things change. Would it have stopped what had gone on this weekend and what got on with Martial? Absolutely not. The problem that you've got is Lingard had no choice. He had to come out and put the rhetoric out there that I've never not wanted to play, etc., etc., etc. That's what happens with footballers. Their agent would have got straight into their PR team, and out comes the bollocks. Yeah, I could have written it for him with my eyes closed. It's just standard stuff. What you tend to have, there are no moles and there are no leaks. What you tend to have are junior people within positions at football clubs, MotoGP teams, World Superbike teams, F1 teams. I could go on forever. Who think they know everything, so they align themselves with the journo, feed the journalists something they may well have heard, but it's not quite true. So journalists then go back to them. It's almost like having a police CI, etc., etc. It's that type of thing. It's that murky. That's how it goes on. So any kind of story that comes out 99 times, it's bollocks. There's a story come out today in the Metro that some of the squad aren't 100% happy with how the number 11's situation has gone on. Now, when you look at it from that point of view, people are just digging up whatever they can because Manchester United, unfortunately, sell papers. It's anytime Manchester United is in any kind of article, it gets read, it gets shared, and it just escalates. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. So Lingard had no choice. You know as well as I do that he doesn't want to be here. We all know he should have gone in the summer. We all know that he's provocating all the time when he's on Instagram with his West Ham pictures. So he had no choice. Martial had no choice. You've got to actually believe the manager. You've got to believe the boss on that because you're not going to come out and damage your own reputation. And I quite like a strong manager. I like a manager that calls out a player. It should have been done years ago. Fergie used to do it. Atkinson used to do it. It should have been done years ago. These players at the moment, they're like children. They're like girls. They just get mollycoddled, all the time. You've got to move away from that. So whether or not Rangnick has the power as a consultant, I would imagine he's a smart businessman. I would have put that into his contract that there's no interference on the board. I would imagine he'll step up and really formulate a football board now, and he'll be the pivotal pin between Richard Arnold and the club. So, no, it's just a circus. It's what happens in the media. I take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I think circus is definitely the right word to use. In regards to that, I do agree. I think the mentality at the football club needs to change in a certain way it's structured. And for this really, it's been like we had a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like the shit's just really rolling downhill and it's consistently happening. And Barry here agrees. He says, interesting that a media consultant has been appointed. We'll have thought we had one. He has been appointed to put out fires, I would imagine. Interesting comments are true. So Barry is in agreement with that. And interestingly enough, Neil Ashton was Ed Woodward's media consultant, weren't he? Before he moved on. So obviously Ashton
Has he left? Has Ashton left as well, or What's the story? Because I find
I'd say the fact that Hogstein has been appointed, I'd say it's a situation because Ashton was Woodward's man. It's probably a situation now where the club are wanting to get someone who has a relationship with that manager. So, as Barry has rightly mentioned, fires get put out, and I suppose certain things though are nipped in the bud, in that regard. But like, look, it is a situation where I think certain things can be. I think lines of communication can be better. You're a multi-billion-pound entity. You're the biggest football club in England. Like, from board level down to management, there should be more communication. There should be a clear plan. Like if, for example,
that's what it is. It's poor communication and it's poor squad planning. You have a player that wanted out in the summer, and you had however many months to decide what to do with him in January, and you're letting it fizzle out, and then you're letting it leak into the media and get so much messier than it had to be. It's just so frustrating because it's not a complicated issue. And the fact he's staying, I know people say over the thing that happened with Greenwood that you want to keep him, but for me, all he's doing, why keep a player that is going to be gone in 6 months because he's just taking minutes off you players that could be called up. Like, for me, I think you should let Lingard go and not send Ahmed out loan. You promote it, you give him more minutes, you promote Hannibal. I think between them, they could take Greenwood's minutes instead of Lingard, who, I just don't get it. Like, you're having a player there that's going to hurt the development of young players when he's going to be gone in 6 months. I just don't see how it makes a lot of sense to keep it.
Yeah, it does. I suppose in that respect, it didn't make sense. And like, for me, I think it's a situation where mismanagement, and this is why, like, when you get this football director, sporting director, and they're inexperienced in that role, there's never going to be a proper structure there. So I think Ralf coming in this perspective consultancy role can do wonders. But who's to say things might change in these next couple of months? He mightn't be in that role. It is something I'm actually going to come on to later on, in the show with regards to Ralf Rangnick and what he needs, how he needs to fix this football club, because there's many things that need to be fixed. And I think he has experience working at RB Leipzig and helping structure football clubs and working with prospective new managers that he done. And with Julian Nagelsmann at Leipzig, he laid the foundations for him to come in. But before we come on to that, before we speak kind of more about the future and managing expectations, etc., Grant, we went out with the FA Cup on Friday night. Now, people can talk about that game, and there was different X's and O's as the reason why we lost. Obviously, VAR was an issue. There was all different types of issues in terms of we had a very thin squad, etc. Missed a lot of chances. But this is another repeat issue of Man United losing a game at home they're expected to win, losing a game where, our expectation is that the FA Cup is a massive trophy for Manchester United this season in terms of helping our season going forward, Grant. What do you think about this squad's mentality when it really matters most? Because it looks like this moment, this certain group of players, we've seen under Solskjaer with the multiple semi-finals and obviously the final loss in the Europa League, and albeit apart from Man City, all against opposition we should be beaten. Do you think these players have a weak mentality? And do you think that this current squad of players don't have, what's the word? I suppose the cojones to be Manchester United players and be kind of to deal with the weight of that shirt? Because it seems like at the minute there's a lot of spoofers at this football club, and it's looking like they can't deal with the pressure of being a Manchester United player. And how do you think we improve this mentality in the dressing room?
Well, for a start, I thought you were anticipating that Troy Deeney was going to be a Manchester United player for a start. I thought that was a really good use of cojones, I have to say. Listen, I'm going to put my hand up here, which indicates the number 5, because it's 5 years since United will have won probably another trophy since that Europa League final under Jose Mourinho. And, a lot of Manchester United fans are sick and fed up of hearing about this being bandied around in certain media circles. But the fact of the matter is, they simply have not been good enough. Roy Keane comes out with that phrase of there's some bluffers at Manchester United, and he's absolutely spot on. The same people that threw Mourinho under the bus, threw Solskjaer under the bus that are probably going to throw Ralf under the bus. It's the same occurring problems in a playing capacity at Manchester United. I think there is definitely a mentality issue. You look at that team as we strip everything back, right? You want your captain to be a winner. Harry Maguire is not a winner. He lost a Euros final with England. He's lost a Europa League final with Man United when they lost to Villarreal. He won nothing at Leicester. He won nothing at Hull City. Why is Harry Maguire captain? Because he was bought for 80 million quid. That's basically why. You've got Raphael Varane, a Champions League winner, a multiple La Liga winner, European winner and international winner with France. You've got Paul Pogba as well. Those guys have done more in their career than Harry Maguire's done. Now, I have had a lot of discussions with United fans who have said that Raphael Varane is probably a better fit and choice to be captain of Manchester United than Harry Maguire. Now, you can leave that up to discussion. It's up to yourselves on that one. But I think that you look at straight from the squad point of view, the wrong person is captain of Manchester United Football Club. You want winners in your team. Harry Maguire is a bluffer. Keane is absolutely spot on when he talks about bluffers. Who, as captain of Manchester United Football Club, thinks it is acceptable to go out on the lash when you lose 4-1 at Watford, the same day, the same night that your manager is sacked by the football club? That is just stinking of unprofessionalism. And it stinks of that right from the start. There are guys there in the team that need to buckle up and start performing on the pitch. The cliques within the team just simply muddies the waters and just makes it so much more difficult for a team to connect together. Individual FC, I've heard quoted by quite a few United friends of mine that I know, and you guys all know as well. It's extremely frustrating. People are saying that certain individuals are the problems. I think it's a collective as well that's a problem. There's no togetherness in the squad. As I said, Maguire, every time he comes out, Keane always goes on about the robot mentality, and there's no emotion behind him. I always did that. No emotion behind it, and he's absolutely right. There is no emotion. If you're passionate about Manchester United Football Club, you want to have a little bit of fight, a little bit of fire, a bit of determination. That's what Keane was a master of at his peak. Rio Ferdinand was exactly the same. Nemanja Vidic, people like that. I just think that there's just a lack of fight about this Manchester United team. That Borough game on Friday night highlighted everything in a box, a Pandora's box, if you like, of problems with Manchester United. They don't kill teams off when they get themselves in front. And when they do concede, they fall like a tower of cards. When Borough equalised in the game, and I said this on the review show with Mark Biggs on Friday night, United never really looked, in my opinion, like they were going to reassert control on the game. Borough were happy to sit in, say to United, you come and break us down. And they didn't really have an answer to that. But United missed chance after chance after chance at 1-0, and even at 0-0 to put the game away. And that night is set by the tone of Cristiano Ronaldo's penalty miss. I think how many out of a percentage, guys, just a question to you all. Out of 100%, right? How confident were you Ronaldo was going to score that penalty? 90%? 95%?
I'll tell you how confident I was, Grant. I was literally sitting here, right? I was in the group chats, I had tweets. I literally had Ronaldo, the GOAT, all them stuff written out, ready to go, ready to pop out to the world. I was that confident.
But that's exactly my point. It's so rare for Cristiano Ronaldo to miss a penalty. Now, I think after that, you could tell that Ronaldo's confidence and his body language was getting worse as the game was going on. His confidence was draining himself because he missed that penalty. And John makes a great point. There is a lack of confidence in this team. So many players completely out of form. He's absolutely right. Jadon Sancho scores a very good goal. He actually played really well on Friday night, but there was guys there in the team that just didn't put away the chances he was setting up. Bruno Fernandes, you've got an open goal, my friend, and you hit the post. It's just, I can't believe he didn't score. But the thing is, the warning signs was there at 1-0 because D. Henderson made a great save at 1-0. And we didn't adhere to that. But it's so frustrating because that game should never have come even close to a penalty shootout because the game should have been out of sight even before the VAR decision, whatever you want to call it. I think it's dreadful to defend it. It is a handball. But it's dreadful defending. The rules for handball, by the way, are as clear as muck. But I still think that should never be a talking point because it shouldn't be relevant because the game should have been outside. It's so frustrating that players who are paid so much more money than I would dream to have just can't put the ball in the back of the net. Easy chances. I mean, how many goals did Cristiano Ronaldo want to score on Friday night? He could have had 2 or 3. Sancho himself could have had a couple. Fernandes could have had a couple. Rashford hitting shots straight at the goalkeeper. Have a bit of composure on your finishing. But I just felt it was so frustrating because I actually felt we played really well on Friday night, but we just didn't take our chances. And at this level, in these sort of circumstances, when you're under pressure to deliver, you have to be ruthless. And United just aren't ruthless enough.
Yeah, the lack of ruthlessness is there is abundantly clear, and I think, especially in these big games, we're lacking that massively, and it's abundantly clear because 5 years without a trophy, I think, speaks volumes. And with regards to that, but on the back of what Grant has said, Shane, like obviously this isn't the first time that this has happened. We've had the Sevilla game in the Europa League where we've the semi-final when we battered them, lost. We've had games in the FA Cup, even under Solskjaer a couple of years ago, battered Wolves, lost. There seems to be this team seems to have this kind of mental block. I don't know if it's a mental block, or I don't know if it's a lack of commitment, lack of desire, lack of having the will to win. Like for you, when you look at this team's mentality, and like you look at some of these players in the squad now, obviously you have your Varanes, Ronaldo's, they've only come in this season, but we've had the likes of the Pogbas, Rashford's won a couple of trophies, so David De Gea, that has won the Premier League with us. When you look at this squad and you look at it in a nutshell, you look at Manchester United as a football club, like not even so much as the mentality of the overall squad, but the overall mentality of the football club seems to be fractured at the minute, and the winning mentality in this squad seems to be gone. For you, like, what's going wrong in all these different little areas? Like, what's going wrong for you?
I don't know. I definitely do think these players aren't on piss, though. I think they're botless. I think you go back and look at most of Ollie's time. I think the best results under Ollie they came against in the quote-unquote big games, but not in the important games, say. So they come against someone like Man City, or they come against PSG in the Champions League. Games where we're the overwhelming underdog, so the pressure is off the players. Where they have nothing to lose, they can go out and just whatever happens. When you come into the important games then, and the pressure is on, like all them semi-finals, like all the semi-finals and like the final in the Europa League last year, when the pressure is on and you are the favourite, they don't get the job done. I don't know what that is. I think maybe because the club is ran like a club that target is just to make top 4, and maybe that seeps down. I think maybe it's because they were babied a lot under Ollie, and that didn't push them. I don't know. I don't know how you fix that either. I think you just eventually have to get over the hump. But yeah, man, I really don't know what you can do to fix that. But there definitely is. There's so many of these players that have no pedigree in the game. Like Grant said, Harry Maguire was signed for 18 million. He hadn't played a European game in his career until he came to United. He was then made captain. And I don't think you need to be the most decorated player in the world to be captain, but you definitely need to have some sort of personality. And he's probably the most beige cunt I've ever heard in my life. He doesn't inspire. I can't imagine him inspiring anyone in that dressing room. I think when you get winners like Ronaldo in the team, and he then complaining or he's giving out on the pitch, everything is like, oh, he has an attitude problem and he has this and he's that and he's upsetting players, and that's just more evidence that the players being babied. Someone who's won trophies in the game and that wants to win things is giving out, and next minute it's a problem with that because everyone just wants to be comfortable. Everyone in the club wants to be comfortable. They don't want to be pushed. They're happy to just do the bare minimum. And I even think some of the fans are like that as well, that they're upset when players get angry and that they just want them all to be losers like the rest of it. So, you know, I don't know how you go about changing that. I think eventually you just have to get over the hump. I don't know. I think we're quite a ways off doing that at the moment, just with the current trajectory of the team.
Yeah, it is. It's worrying. Worrying would be the word I'd use here, because you go 5 years without a trophy, right? Look, there's sometimes circumstances you can accept that to a degree, because let's say there's been times where, look, we've just been beaten by the better team, and you know, on the day, and look, that's fine. But when you look at, there's so many different examples of battering teams but not getting able to get over the line. There's a lack of conviction and a lack of personality used and lack of desire really there to really get over the line.
Can I just say something? Ollie's first season when he was interim, I think he sums up this squad so well, is when he first came in and it looked like top four was gone. We had nothing to play for the rest of the season. The season was over. And we went on this great run, and we are scoring so many goals, and we are looking like United teams meant to do, but we looked like we are playing well. Then we got ourselves back in the race for top four. Then all of a sudden, that form goes away because the pressure is back on. We're back in the race for top four. There's something to play for, and we just fade away again. It just sums up this squad so much. Is that they'll go out and enjoy themselves, they'll do this, do that, and then the second the pressure comes on, that goes away. I don't know why it is, I don't know how you stop it, but you can't deny it, you know.
Still, on the back of both the lads have just said, do you think Manchester United just need an overall culture change? And do you think this has to stem from the top? Because it looks like the board and the owners at this moment in time seem to be quite comfortable with just getting that top four, getting that Champions League money. Because if you look at the statistics will tell you, when Manchester United get into the top four, their net spend in the summer would be around £72 million. When you look at, when they finished outside the top four, the average spend is 132 million. When you look at the way the club was run, you look at the overall, obviously the players themselves, their mentalities are shit anyway. We know that for the most part. But when you look at the overall football club and this kind of closed culture that we have, do you maybe think it has to stem from the top and a culture change really needs to happen before we see these results emanate in the pitch?
Yeah, look, it is a good point that, and we know that ever since the Glazers have been in charge, there's been an issue with funding. There's been an issue with structural, with the structure of the club. And as you quite rightly said, a culture club. But the problem that you've got on the field is the players have to change their own culture. You know, you as an individual footballer, it's up to you to change your own, mental issues that you've got. I always remember when I was playing, the gaffer would always call us in 20 minutes before, before the bell, etc. And we'd go through what we're going to do during the game. And then he'd point to three of us just before we went out on the pitch. He'd point to three of us and he'd say, Stu, Jacko, Mazza, whatever, I want you to spend the first 10 minutes when you're out of possession looking at their setup, looking at what they're like in possession, who's their go-to player. Do they play it wide? Do they play it short? Do they play it long? And when we're in possession, what's their system? Do they, are they narrow, etc., etc.? And that's just basic football. And the problem that we're having, and you can take Middlesbrough, you can take any game that we go into, we lack player intelligence. So you can fix the culture at the top, no problem at all. You could replace the owners tomorrow, get Saudis in or whatever you want, but you can't change the culture overnight on the pitch. And that's the key element to it. You see, the burden of the manager disappears completely when the players cross the white line. Then the burden of the game becomes onto the players. It comes onto you because you're the ones that can physically see what's happening. And I talk about it all the time. Or you can go to any show that I've done and I will tell you, player intelligence is our biggest issue. We lack basic football intelligence. And it astonishes me to this day that we haven't either brought in players or we haven't established an intelligent network of players. And it's a real issue for us. It doesn't matter who's out there. It's the same problem week in, week out. And I think under Ollie, people are going about it's the coaches, etc., etc. It just isn't. The responsibility of a player's performance is on himself. So change whatever you need to do at board level, but it won't change unless the mentality changes on the pitch. That's the key issue to this. When you look at the captain, again, I'm on record as saying, Grant knows my views on captains because we had a conversation about it. I never paid a blind bit of a notice to my skipper, not one bit of notice, because I was too busy concentrating on my game. You know, he could shout at me here, whatever he liked. I'd do, whatever, mate, I'll talk to you at half time. You've got to concentrate on your own game. And you don't just need one, you need 9 or 10 players. All the teams I've played with, I've had winners. We were always bad winners, fucking terrible winners. Okay. So we'd walk off. We won 2 or 3-0. We won 6-0. We were fucking awful. Terrible losers, terrible winners. I wouldn't fucking shake someone's hand unless I had to if I'd lost, because I was that angry at what had gone on. It's not right, by the way, kids. Any kids watching, you should always take the opposition hand. But that's just the type of player that I was. And we don't have that. And Grant and Shane have both spoken about bottlers and winners, etc. We do lack that across the board. And somebody was saying about Varane being skipper. Varane was in no man's land for Watmore against Middlesbrough. Absolutely in fucking no man's land. He was jogging till he realised where Watmore was. And you're absolutely right. If it hadn't hit his hand, he would have taken it down anyway. He was in that much space and crossed it. So they're going to score anyway, or the chance was going to happen. Let's put it that way, irrespective of the penalty. And that's communication. That's communication from Maguire, Varane, Henderson, Shaw, Dalot. It's communication, complete communication. And that is the biggest problem on our pitch, is a lack of communication, a lack of winners, a lack of...
It's also about trust as well, Stu. It's about trust
absolutely.
as well. You know, the back four are a unit. The goalkeeper and the back four are a unit. The midfield are a unit. The whole team is a unit. And we're so disconnected. I've used that word again. That's exactly where I feel we're at. Sorry.
No. Well, the point you're making is valid, and it's something I was going to talk about anyway, because I've always said that the spine of a team is the quartet. It's your goalkeeper, your 2 centre halves, and your central midfielder. Okay. Now, look, there's an argument to say, I've always suggested Henderson should be a number 1. People have had, you don't know what you're talking about football, etc., etc., etc. But I'm talking about it from the centre halves position, where I want someone who's going to cover the whole 18-yard box, not just the 6-yard box, which is what De Gea does. So Henderson added a little bit more, what I would call security. So we cut off the yardage between the 2 centre halves, and the space between them and the goalkeeper. Where you've got the issue is the yardage between the centre halves and the fucking CDM, whoever it is. It's too fucking big. It's always too big. Now, you can look at Varane and you can look at Maguire, because you should do, because they're the ones that should be controlling the number 6, whoever it is, whether it's McTominay, Fred or Matic. They should be controlling that player all the time. I need you 5 yards back. I need you 5 yards to the left. I need you 5 yards to the right. Get hold of number 8 because he's receiving the ball in 10 yards of space for the last 10 minutes. That's what you do in football. And that, you can coach all that as much as you like on the training pitch. You really can. You can do it every day and you'll close them down. But if you don't fucking apply what you're told to do on the training pitch, it just matters not. And the problem that you have, and I've been going on about this for months, again, I'm on feed saying it, is intelligence and application. So a roundabout waking, you can change anything at the top at boardroom level, but you can't fucking change it. And Shane was right. Whether we got a load of bottlers or not, I'm not sure bottling's the right word, Shane. I get what you're saying, but whether we've got that intelligence and that real fucking desire.
It's ruthlessness. That's the word you're missing. It's ruthlessness.
Yeah. Whether we've got that, I don't think we have. And what you do about it, I think, what did you say, Shane? 5, 6 players, did you say we need to change?
No, I didn't.
Sorry, I thought you did. But I think we need to change 5 or 6 players. I do. I'm not sure.
I would agree with that, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure the youth at the minute is the right move. It is to bring it in. You want to sprinkle the squad with youth. But we've got to get an absolute steely-eyed fucker. Is what I used to call it.
Can I just come in because you were talking about Henderson? I don't think anybody that says that Henderson or De Gea is a problem.
I was just talking about
it's talking rubbish, because I think they're actually 2 of the highlights of this United team. I think with 2 very, very good goalkeepers, to be honest with you. No, that's just my opinion on that. But you mentioned a good point, Stuart. I'm sorry to come in again and do this. You mentioned about the captain, and I absolutely take your point about your own story about the captaincy and things like that. But I watch a lot of sport, not just football, but rugby, golf, so much stuff. You want your big players to be out there shouting at your teammates. I watched the Calcutta Cup game yesterday between Scotland and England, and I could tell that both teams, but particularly the Scotland team, you have big game players, Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg. They were communicating to their players throughout the game. That's your captain and your vice captain, if I'm correct. You got to be screaming, and communication is the word. But I just feel, and I absolutely get where you're coming from. Everybody's got to captain themselves, and I absolutely see that point of view. But I do feel as well that in the pressure, big moments, you need your big leaders to come up, stand up, and be counted. And I don't think we have many of that. That's just my comeback to you.
Well, no, you're right. But at the elite level, and you're talking elite level footballer, that is what we're talking about. It should be ingrained in you anyway as an individual. You should have that about you. You shouldn't need somebody. I know what you're saying, but you shouldn't need somebody to be in your ear saying, blah 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 blah. Communication's all about where you are at any one time in your pitch. Concentrate on your segment of the game. Concentrate on your segment to your front, rear, left, and right. Concentrate on that segment, and that will carry you through the game. And if everyone else concentrates on their segments at any given time, that's how you win a game of football. Unless you don't take your chances like we did at Middlesbrough, which I get. So football isn't as complicated as people make out. I know they love to talk about the 4-2-3-1, and all this kind of formations. They love to concentrate on FIFA. But it's very, very simplistic. Football is, providing you work together as a cohesive unit. That's where Middlesbrough was so difficult to beat, because they worked together as a cohesive unit. And you know as well as I do that Wilder would have been there at half. Sorry, Shane, I'll let you in a minute. Wilder, when he was there at half time, would have been saying to them, "Look, United won't run out of steam. They'll be at you. They'll be at you. So when you get your chance, you've got to be fucking ruthless." And they were. And
absolutely.
Sorry, lads, I've gone on too much. Apologies.
No, you're fine, man. I do agree. Football is a simple game, but I do think just the way it's gone, and you look at the top teams and the top coaches, like tactics definitely play a far bigger part in the game now than they did when I was a young fella. I do think sometimes people go overboard and they're very condescending about it, but I do think they're important. And I think everything we're saying about the mentality, that is a problem. I think we're all bang on about that. But I also don't want to relieve the players themselves and the coaches of responsibility, because nobody's a winner until you go and win something. We can't say the team hasn't won something, and that's not going to change until you just do it. So it's not an excuse. That it's just evident. I don't know how you solve it, but it has to change. You know what I mean? I think obviously the coaching has to be better. I think over the last 3-4 years, United have been a poorly coached team. I also think mentally and inexperience with the players is a problem, but I think there's a lot of things wrong with United, and I think mentality is one of them, but I do think it's just one of a lot of things over the last few years.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Keith, just to clarify, because I think Mark had a comment earlier on about the golf. The Ryder Cup, there is captains in the Ryder Cup, and that was the example I was using. Ian Poulter being a classic example over the years. Sorry, I just wanted to tie that off because I saw that comment come, but I just wanted my opportunity to respond to that. Sorry.
Absolutely. And guys, everyone watching the video at the moment, look, this podcast has been an absolute blast, and I haven't spoken about 10-15 minutes, but you know what? I'm glad I haven't. The insight from the lads has been absolutely fantastic. So while you're here, if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, jump over to All for United's YouTube channel, come over, smash like the video, get involved in the comments, because a lot of comments come in, they've been all bang on. And I want to come to John Kermoda's comment with this, and I'm going to come back to you, Grant, with this. With regards to, obviously, improving mentality and improving players, and obviously Stu mentioned in terms about intelligence and getting better football intelligence on the pitch, but also kind of winners, players who play for the team. John actually agrees here. John says, agree with the point of 5-6 players needed. We could possibly offload 7 to 8. Question is, will we do it though? Need less superstars and more team players. Would you agree with that statement that we need to get rid of all the superstars, or do you think maybe it's a case that you need winners, not superstars, but winners, players who will I suppose, come into the dressing room mentality and not accept second best? Because I think there's a lot of players in the football club at the moment who are happy with being comfortable and accepting second best.
Well, there will be players that I think will go, regardless if they want to stay or go in the summer. If Manchester United don't get top 4, for example, or we don't win the Champions League, I expect to see quite a few players going just straight off the bat of that. Do you guys honestly think that Cristiano Ronaldo is going to stay at Manchester United if they're not in the Champions League? No, absolutely not. Is Edinson Cavani going to stay if Manchester United are in the not in the Champions League? No. Is Paul Pogba going to stay?
I don't think Ronaldo's going to want to stay, but I think he might have to, because I struggle to see where he could go.
I think he'll go MLS.
Why did you leave the Premier League to go to the MLS though? Like,
he can't go to America though.
What do you mean he can't go to America?
There's other stuff going on outside.
He can't
the
still
wall.
go to America.
Yeah.
Why not go back to Portugal?
He'll go to PSG, I think. I think PSG will be his next move.
I think PSG could be, but then Mbappe is leaving. But
anyway, I was trying to get to my point. No, it's fine. But I genuinely don't think, this is just my opinion, I genuinely can't see Ronaldo, Cavani, Pogba, maybe even De Gea, maybe a couple of others staying at Manchester United if they're not going to be in the Champions League. Simple as that. So I think that takes at least 4 to 8. I'm going to give a rough sort of estimate here. 4 to 8. Package them to the one side that will probably either move on or go elsewhere. You've got guys there that are clearly not happy who want to leave. Lingard, we know Martial's away out on loan. Will Martial, if he does well at Sevilla, will he go back there for a permanent spell next season? We'll have to wait and see on that. Lingard, I don't think he'll be a United player next season. You look at the back 4. I think Wan-Bissaka, personally, is not good enough for Man United. I would be thinking about offloading him personally, quite frankly. We all know the situation, and certainly my thoughts on Maguire. I want to say one particular word here, but I'm not going to. But a lot of people know my thoughts on Maguire. Matic, probably now past his best. Mata, past his best. You look at guys like Rashford, Sancho, we need to be probably starting to build the team around those sort of young players. I think now would probably be, coming towards this end of the season, because we kind of have nothing to lose in some respects. I think we kind of have to try and build from within. You have to look at the under-23s in that squad. Look at guys like Hannibal and players like that, and really give them some more game time between now and the rest of the season. Because what have we got to lose? Yes, we can have a go at the Champions League, but realistically, I don't think we're going to get any further than the quarterfinals at best. I genuinely think that United need to start from now making up a short list of players that they think, maybe not just in the Premier League, but elsewhere in Europe, that could make a difference. And I know somebody commented there saying that Lamptey would be a good choice at right back. I think that's a great shout. I think he's a fantastic player for Brighton. I think someone like Bissouma as a defensive midfield player, I've said that for a while, I think would be very, very good. You saw Declan Rice score at the weekend for West Ham, to save their skin against Kidderminster Harriers. I'd be probably looking for him. I know, Keane, you're a massive fan of Rice, and I know a lot of other people are as well. He's not personally my first choice, but
he is cash money, Declan Rice.
Yeah, but I think the only reason we get Rice is if we offload someone with money. That's the possibly way I see it. But, there's a lot of talk about Dembele coming, which I think is totally wrong. Doesn't sit well with me at all. There's guys there, like, I've said this for a while, and a lot of people still think that my Scottish bias comes through when I say this, but John McGinn is the sort of player that is a fantastic player that definitely would offer something, that little bit of fire that I said earlier on, that would make a difference in that area of the pitch. He could do that box to box. He could do that number 10. He could play as a number 8. I really think that United need to be looking for players that not only are winners, but are versatile. And I think versatility in football is something that's grossly underestimated. We've got too many players in this team that are square pegs and round holes as things stand. In my opinion, I'd like to see a little bit more fluidity in the team. Look at Manchester City. They don't play with a striker, for goodness sake. They have a fluidity in that team that anybody could play that number 9 if they wanted to. Look at Liverpool today. They changed quite a lot of their team, and a lot of the guys that came in did a good job. Look at Tsimikas on the left-hand side, displacing Andy Robertson at left back. He had a fantastic game. I know Robertson came on and got assist, but he played very well. That front three that they have, Shota scored today, Minamino scored today. You can see what Liverpool are trying to do. You can see what Manchester City are trying to do. I just don't see what United are doing. And I think we now have to try and think about what is this philosophy that we want to see with Manchester United long term. Because now is a perfect time in some respects to do it, because we've nothing to lose. Because in some respects, we've nothing to play for, because the league is gone, the two cups have gone. Europe is possibly a bit of a bonus for us, but it's possibly a bit of a bonus for Atletico Madrid, by the way. So it's an interesting one, but I definitely think we should be scouting from now across most of the European leagues for players that could suit more than just one position in the team. Seven piece.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely. And look, you've hit the nail on the head with everything you said. And for me, look, it's a situation, a bit of restructuring needs to be done. I think if you mentioned one thing there is identity. You mentioned identity. And for me, identity needs to be clear, because we haven't had that. And at the moment, we're kind of looking at this situation. We're saying, like, look, we don't know what the style of play is. We don't know what players fit a system. What is United's style of play at the minute? We don't really know. Like, what's United's set system? We're flip-flopping between 3 at the back, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. Like, where is that? Like, if you look at all these teams now, they've certain players who are all singing off the hymn sheet. We don't have that at the minute. So there's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of fun. What more I would use is fundamentals lost this football club in terms of where we'd be, like, in terms of what we do, what type of goals we score. Because if you look at Liverpool and City, Grant, you mentioned the two of them teams, and me and Shane talked about this on Devil's Advocate before when it was on the weekly armchair, is when Manchester City or Liverpool score a goal, they're almost like, the type
It's
of
the
goal.
same goal every time, man.
It's like the same type of goal every time. Yeah. Man United don't do that. It's all off the cuff. And there's no identities, there's no style of play, there's, it's mystifying. But for me, I'm just wanting these next couple of months to really, let's try to learn more about these certain players in the squad. Who can we build our future on? Because I think, like, obviously, like, look, if we have a rebuild coming up, and look, we need to, like, it's not like FIFA, as Stu rightly mentioned, where you can sell 18 players and you go out in the summer and buy 18 and do financial takeover and all that bullshit. You don't do that. There is certain elements you have to improve within the team, but it's a gradual process. We're going to talk about, I'm going to get everyone's obviously collective expectations in a minute in terms of what we could achieve this season, what's your minimum expectation, etc. But I'm going to actually throw a curveball to you, Shane, because at the moment, Ralf Rangnick is obviously come in. He's going to be in the consultancy role or whatever point in time. Ralf Rangnick has said that he'd be open to staying at the club for another 12 months in the managerial role. Now, we've seen gradual improvement in terms of the defensive area at the football club. No, the defense seems to be getting slightly better. And Ralf seems to be calling out players. Ralf seems to be, trying to, I suppose, get everything right and try to play a set system. At the moment, he's kind of persistent 4-3-3. He's obviously promoting youth and stuff like that. Now, we're talking about rebuilds. We're talking about recruiting players. Where are you in the managerial situation? Because Tony mentioned this here in the comments. We need to sort out the manager before we can start thinking about players who we want to sign. For you, Shane, at the minute, do we give Ralf Rangnick a crack at the whip? Do you maybe think, if it's a case that Ten Hag and Pochettino will probably have to come into maybe a ready-made squad to adapt to their style of play, do you think the way Ralf Rangnick has kind of done rebuilds at like Leipzig and other clubs like that, where he's laid the foundations for the next manager coming in, aka obviously, Julian Nagelsmann being the biggest example? Do you maybe think if Ralf Rangnick is going to help in that respect, and Ralf Rangnick is going to help in that role, that maybe his tenure at the football club, that we maybe extend it and maybe try to get him to help with the rebuild, because he's done it so many times before? And two managers in Pochettino and Ten Hag who are fantastic tactically, but they have minimum experience in terms of rebuilding a football club. For you, if you look at this, Shane, would you maybe give Ralf Rangnick maybe an extra 12 months to maybe try get some of these players out of the football club and try sign players that literally that we'd have a clear plan for Manchester United in terms of the way we want to play football? Or do you say, look, I give one of these new managers a chance, Ten Hag, Joe Pochettino, maybe even Luis Enrique, whoever it may be, that they're the ones, like, the new manager comes in and does it? Or do you maybe think in 12 give Ralf Rangnick 12 months and let him have the chance to rebuild because of his previous experiences building football clubs? Because at the moment, we need to rebuild, and it looks like it's going to have to be a serious operation.
I don't know a lot about Ralf, to be honest. Everything I've heard about him is just what I've heard about from you and in the chat when he first came. I'd love going off that. I'd love for him to be around for another year for a rebuild, but I definitely prefer him to be working above and with a new manager instead of him being the manager that oversees the rebuild. Obviously, like, he's only been here a few months or whatever. I don't have that strong of an opinion on him as a coach, but from what I've seen, I don't rate it that highly. I get that he has a tough job in his hands, so I don't want to be too harsh on him, but I don't think the improvement is as good as some people make out. I wouldn't like him to stay on as manager after this season. I would like him to work with a new manager. I like Poch still, even I know PSG is kind of hurt his stock a little bit, but I'm still kind of high on Poch. I haven't watched a lot of Ajax, but I do like. I've heard about Ten Hag and everything that he's supposed to be. I do like him as well. But I do think them two managers are good at rebuilding teams. I think the rebuild Poch had at Spurs was very good. I think Ten Hag, his rebuild at Ajax was fantastic. They went to the semi-final of Champions League. That team kind of got demolished in that summer, but he's built another very strong Ajax team since then. I do think the rebuild, a lot of people say we need to sign winners. I think we need to focus more on just signing good players that complement each other more so than winners. We signed Varane and Ronaldo in the summer who are both winners, and we've gone backwards. Not to say that they're the reason. I think they've both been actually two of our better players this year when they've played. But it's just saying, I think we need to sign winners. That's just a very oversimplification, because you look at Liverpool, Mane wasn't the winner when they signed him. Salah wasn't the winner. Van Dijk wasn't the winner. They've probably been their three most important players in winning a Champions League and a Premier League. So, yeah, maybe that's a bit off topic, but just to answer your question, I would like Ralf to stay around and have a part to play in a rebuild, because going by all accounts, he's a brilliant director of football. He's one of the best in the world at that. So that's when we found out he was coming to United, that's what got me excited. I thought what would happen was he was going to be a director of football, and he would kind of decide how United are going to play, and he would have a part to play in the players and manager to come in to fit that. So even if it didn't work out for a manager, he would pick another manager after that would be of a similar style, that would make use of the previous manager's players. That's not happening at the moment. We're just kind of every signing we make is a spur of the moment kind of thing, or it's just kind of a flashy name, or it's a quote unquote winner that we're signing good players, but they might not complement other players in the team. You know, I think Ronaldo is a good example of that. Like, I think Ronaldo's been good for us this year. I don't think he's the problem at all. I think it's very lazy to say he's one of the problems, but I definitely don't think he's elevating performances around him like other players might have. So yeah, just to answer your question, I'd like Ralf to be around for this year, but just definitely not as manager.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's multiple different opinions kind of on this, and like, where do we see Ralf Rangnick in these next kind of couple of months? Because in the last kind of few weeks, people are calling for him now to get the job, and look, for me, I'm still unsure myself. I think obviously consultant is a word that gets thrown around. So for me, like, in terms of how we move forward, it's, for me, I'd rather him be the director of football. I don't want John Murtagh to be director of football. He's worked under the previous regime. I want something fresh. I want something that has a clear, direct plan. Like, John Murtagh got promoted from within. Like, for me, for Manchester United to really have a clear identity again, we need to get out of this kind of bygone era, I think, for me, though, in terms of, like, yes, we're Man United. Yes, we do this, do that, and the other. Yeah, there's ways of doing that, but there's ways of, I suppose, modernizing that. Do you know what I mean? There's ways of getting with the times, but also keeping the same principles of attacking football, playing youth, and winning trophies. They're the three fundamentals right there. And you can do that, obviously. Look, there's not going to be the days where, look, it's a simple 4-4-2 and Keane's goals, the whole lot, and that's all going to happen when we throw the kitchen sink. Like, okay, there's different ways of doing that, but Manchester United can keep them three principles that are our clear identities of football club and what we're famous for. But there's ways of modernising that the football club stay within them principles, but have a new modern approach and we get out of kind of a bygone era of, I suppose, having a Man United man at the football club. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, in terms of, like, fair enough, we had Ollie, that was okay. Like, look, we had the feel-good factor for the football club for quite a while, and that was great to have that kind of man at the football club, and that's good. But then, like, when you're promoting people from within and they don't have experience in them roles of, I suppose, building a football club, fundamentally then you're going to be playing catch-up because they're learning on the job in that role. Do you know what I mean? When you're hiring people for certain roles, whether it's a manager job, whether it's whether it's director of football, whether it's even the person working on reception at the training ground, you want to get the best candidate with the most experience for that person to thrive in their role. You don't want to be getting someone who's going to be learning on the job.
Yeah, I do like a lot of the things Ralf says, but then he'll do something then that directly contradicts that. Like, I remember there was one game and he said that our decision making was poor in the final third, and I was like, yeah, that's true. And then I think he dropped Sancho for Rashford and he dropped someone else for Greenwood, I think. And it's like, that's a direct contradiction because the decision making was poor. But I would say that Sancho is probably has better decision making than Rashford and Greenwood in the final third. And there's just a few times where he says you want to play the press, but we haven't been doing that. He says he wants to control. I remember he said he wants more control on the pitch, but then we went with a back four. I think it was Jones, Wan-Bissaka was in the back four with McTominay and Fred in the middle. And, you have that many players limited technically, you're not going to have much control. But, I do think he knows football, but I don't know how much good of a coach he is, to be honest, to give him another 12 months.
Yeah, it's something that we've seen. I think maybe as this goes on to our next topic, these next couple of months are going to be the defining factor on A, when is he going to move into that role, and B, what's Manchester United's plan going to be for this summer? And not just this summer, but for the next 5-6 years. This has to be a process that needs to start ASAP. And Stu, I'm going to come to you on this because obviously this season, we discussed at the top of the show that we're knocked out of the Carabao Cup. That was grand. We had the FA Cup left. We're now knocked out of the FA Cup. Now we're going to win the Champions League. I'm keeping Carthag's tradition going. We're winning that. We're winning the lot. That's my expectation. I'm only messing. But in all seriousness, Stu, expectation-wise, where are you at now? Because obviously we're knocked out of the Carabao Cup, knocked out of FA Cup. Very hard tie against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. And the top four race is really close between ourselves, West Ham, Spurs, and Arsenal. For you, where are you at right now in terms of expectation levels for the football club? And how does Ralf, I suppose, squeeze everything out of this current crop of players who we have mentioned earlier on the show seem to, I suppose, they seem to freeze under pressure. So how do you think, A, we can manage expectation, and B, how does Ralf go about fixing this in these next 5 months?
Well, look, I think from a fan's point of view, expectations are we get into top four and we win the Champions League. But let's park that. Let's look at football realism. Football realism is a really key element to this. And I think it's going to be mightily difficult, A, to get past Atleti. I know they're not playing particularly well, but they're a stubborn outfit. And you know exactly what Simeone is going to bring. And I don't know if we've got the capacity within our squad to beat Atleti. And secondly, we're in a real dogfight at the minute for top four. I said it a few weeks ago that Tottenham are going to be our main issue, and they still will be, Conte, I know they've had their ups and downs over the last couple of matches, but Conte's got them going now. Conte's a really, really good manager, and he seems to be getting the best out of Harry Kane again, which is a problem for anybody, because when Harry Kane starts scoring, Tottenham 9 out of 10 times are going to win. They've offloaded a couple of their deadwood like Dele Alli, etc., but they seem to have a good work ethic about them. So I think if we're going to manage expectations, top four is our best hope. How we get there, how we navigate ourselves there, I think it's going to be touch and go. I think it's going to go to the wire. We can't afford to get cut adrift. And at the minute, because we're not playing well enough to win games, we're scraping through certain games. Okay, we lost against Middlesbrough, etc. We are scraping through certain games. We're just not playing well enough. There's no real cohesion in our squad. There's no cohesion in the first 11 that go out there, whoever the first 11 is. And I don't think it matters actually at the point in time who takes the pitch. We just haven't got that cohesion with anyone. Nobody's really taken their chance. So from a fan's point of view, yeah, we can get top four, we can win the Champions League. But from a realism point of view, and that's the key element here, it's going to be very, very difficult to do both. Sorry to be a downer, but I think you've got to look at it at face value.
Absolutely, and face value is the word I like to use. Say no to touts. That's
yes.
say that. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Just had to get that in there, because I always love sorting out Manchester United fans with tickets. So just had to get that one in there. But yeah, look, it is. I think it's very key. I think expectations have to be realistic, but I also think at the same time, like for me, it has to be a case that this squad, with the forwards we have, we should be getting into the top four. I think, look, obviously Harry Kane's a fantastic forward at Spurs. He's playing well. Arsenal, yes, look, they've no European football, which kind of helps them. They've only one game a week to kind of play. They can keep, if they should be able to keep their squad relatively fresh. Obviously, Grant mentioned in the private chat, Wolves are 4 points behind us with a game. And they're playing well at the moment under their current manager. Could they be a dark horse? That could be a situation. But it's one of them things where we have to just take. I think for us, really, this season, for the rest of the season, I think we have to take it one game at a time. For me, I personally think we have to take it at one game at a time. But I don't think we can look too far ahead, because we've done that so many times in the league, and we're like, all right, look, we're playing. Let's just use an example. We're playing Burnley on Tuesday. All right, look, we look past that. But really, we have Southampton on the weekend. It can't be like that. We have to be in a situation where we take it one game at a time. We play our best team for that particular game, and you move on. And the more points you pick up on the board, then maybe once you can get into a comfortable position in the race of the top four, then maybe, look, if you're still in the Champions League, maybe you can take the foot off the gas slightly. But I think for me, it has to be a case where we manage expectation, but we need to take it one game at a time, and we do need to make sure that we keep the team fresh, we keep the squad fresh. It's best we can play the best team, but obviously, don't overkill. Don't go into overkill mode. I think that's massively.
Yeah, just manage the squad well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to concentrate on yourself. You've got to concentrate on yourself. You have to. Just one quick thing. I just wanted to touch on the rebuild. What I look for when we're signing a player is on-field play development. So whoever we bring in, he can prove the right back, the left back, whoever's playing alongside him. We haven't seen that enough. So I just look at it. I just wanted to make that point, because I know we've covered it, but that's what I look for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think player profile is very important, and partnerships and relationships have to be developed on the pitch. Obviously, you mentioned Stu earlier, like in terms of football intelligence, that's needed. Like everyone can be great, an intelligent footballer, and they can be, I suppose, they can be brilliant at what they do, and they can be the best in their profession. But you need cohesion. You need players who can understand each other's game. You need players, obviously, to be good for the team, good for the system, but also have the quality. You need all of that. Like, obviously, for me, one player I bring up now, Ji-Sung Park is a massive example of that.
Yeah,
like,
great example.
Back when we had Ronaldo, we had Rooney, Tevez, they were fantastic, front three. But then for certain games, certain systems, for a certain understanding of the team, you needed someone to help keep that ticking and keep that energy there. Park Ji-Sung would be, obviously, is a massive player who's an example of that, what Man United had. At the moment, I think it's just a unit of individuals. At the moment, I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to identify players that can play with each other, identify players who can understand each other, but also that they work for each other. And there's no kind of self-centered BS, kind of within the squad, within the team, and development. That you're absolutely right, Stu, is key. And that's where I think you mentioned quite rightly, player profile is massive. And this is what Man United have got wrong post of Alex, for me, is yes, we've signed player A, B, and C, right? But our scouting department are scouting players, but the board are making them final decision on the players. Like, for example, Jose Mourinho wanted X, Y, and Z in terms of centre backs, and we get Lindelof instead of Van Dijk. There you go. That's just, let's say, example A.
We'll sign player A, B, and C, but we sign player A and we won't be thinking about player B and C. You know what I mean? Where the players don't complement each other. We sign Wan-Bissaka, and then, like, say we wanted Sancho, right? And we sign Wan-Bissaka. You're signing a fullback who isn't good going forward, right? And then you're signing Sancho to play on the right wing, who isn't he isn't gonna hug the line. He's not a 1v1 player. He can beat a man, but it's not his game. He's a lot more pass and move player. You know what I mean? So he's gonna, since he can't just do a man 1v1, or it doesn't come natural to him, you're gonna need someone on the overlap that is gonna help him do that. Wan-Bissaka isn't that. Like, I think that's a good example. You've signed two players to the right side, and they're horrible fit together. Like, their games do not complement each other, and that's what it is. Your signings you need to sign one player, and in your mind you need to be thinking about the other players in your team and how that's going to affect them, and how, because these players need to have a relationship on the pitch. You know what I mean? And you can see how we play. That isn't happening.
Case in point with that, and you mentioned like the right side. That's a great example. If you look at Salah and Trent, Salah cuts inside, Trent provides the overlap, popped out, bang, goal. Like, that's the way they do things. Now, we knew slag off Trent for spamming crosses, right, or whatever. We always kind of give that propaganda because he's great at what he does, but you have players who suit each other, and there's that relationship, there's that cohesion. So, like, look, I think it's one of these things where that plan should be in place now. Like, if I go back to it, if Ralf isn't going to be the manager next season, and if he's going into this quote unquote consultancy, then we need to have this plan mapped out now, because he's at the club a couple of months now. He's worked with these players in training. Ralf should know at this stage now that, right, player A, B, and C is not good enough. They're not good for this squad. Right, I'm in communication with the board. They know who the next manager, they should know who the next manager is going to be. This identification should be done now. And then June, July, regardless of whether we're in the top four or not, we signed a certain profile of player to suit Man United's style of play. And ultimately, this sorts out us moving forward and rebuilding. But at the moment, United sign players based on spreadsheets, right? They sign a player for, okay, this player is great marketing in a certain country. He's going to bring new eyes to Man United. He's going to sell X shirts. I'm signing this player
all the time.
Yeah, and this is where Manchester United need to stop working off spreadsheets. Man United need to start working in reality. Reality is the key word here, because that's this club is in cloud cuckoo land at the moment. That's where it is. That's literally where this club is and the way it's run. It's such a closed mentality. It's actually disgusting the way it's run. And I go back to these Glazers. Like, you look at Tom Brady on Twitter the other day thanking the Glazers for his Super Bowl or his fucking career, whatever it may be.
It made me sick.
Yeah, it made me absolutely sick. But, like, do you know what the Glazers then done? Like, I was delighted when Ronaldo came. People can look at my pinned tweet on my Twitter page as I come back to Old Trafford for one last dance or whatever, right? Really, truly, United should have been assigned a defensive midfielder to help Ollie's system at that time. So you had a certain striker who's prospectively going to be your striker. You had Cavani. You had a great system. You signed Sancho. You signed Varane. Prospectively, right, look, you had the right thing going. Then you don't sign a defensive midfield player, then that really shuts everything out. That, like, you're still playing with that same deficiency you had the season before in terms of two midfielders who can't take the ball from the back four. You're still going to have problems losing possession regardless who's up front. Now, United only done this so A, City couldn't sign him, and then B, Glazers seen as their Tom Brady.
I personally don't think Ronaldo was ever going to City.
No, I don't either. Actually, I don't think he was. I think
Sorry, I know what you're saying, Keith. I just wanted to say that off.
No, I agree with what you're saying also, but I think Grant's right. I don't think he was ever going there.
But even on that, like United and the Glazers seeing Ronaldo as their Tom Brady.
Yeah.
They seen that spreadsheet and they're like, Jesus Christ, look at the amount of shirts Ronaldo is going to sell. Look how much we can hype it on social media about his return. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't sign like, look, when a player like him becomes available, you sign him. That temptation is there, but if you want to really rebuild your team, we talked about cultural reboot and all that crack. Defensive midfielder is so important to how United system clicks. Because we were talking about giving Pogba and Bruno the freedom. We were talking about all that. They didn't get it though, did they? Because we're still playing the two, I suppose, Chuckle brothers in midfield, who can't do that.
And the thing is as well, right? See if United don't get in the top four, that will limit who they can theoretically go out and get in the summer. Absolutely no question about that.
Absolutely, and look, it's again,
which I don't actually mind too much because I think there's loads of players that aren't in Europe, just in the Premier League, like you mentioned.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's also players out on loan that we should be looking at. I mean, look at Ethan Laird. Is a good example of that.
But it's just annoying because United have so many scouts out, but they never pull the trigger on these players. They let a player go to a club, say like a tier below United, for peanuts, and then a year or two later, then the prices treble and we're priced out of a move. It's just annoying. We should start taking a chance on some of these players.
Yeah, and again, it's just one of these things where it's mismanagement, a lack of planning, and it's spreadsheet football. That's what I'm going to call it, spreadsheet football. But
just reminds me of someone in the political world from the years ago, but I won't say it here.
Yeah.
I'll save it for another chat. Sorry.
Do. Save for the social chat later on. But just before we wrap up, because I went to stew on this, and I want to quickly just go to Shane and Grant with this before we just wrap up the show. And guys, your comments have been absolutely fantastic tonight. Apex says the director of football is basically a co-manager or the manager who goes to debrief with. Ralf is capable to find understudy to work with. Absolutely, we've said it that you need someone who's obviously working with the manager. Look, Pep has it at City. We need that link. At the moment, we have inexperienced people in them positions. And Jarvis agrees with me as well. He says, United are living in cloud cuckoo land. Absolutely. It's bankers running our club. Yeah, 100%. Not very good bankers by looks things because we're still in £1 billion in debt. And also, Apex is optimistic about my spreadsheet analogy. He says the spreadsheet formula will work in the next 2 seasons, but will not be needed. The future is bright. Apex, I am absolutely loving your optimism. I need a bit of positivity in my life, especially on a Sunday. But for me, like, look, with Muppets on the board, it's hard to see and it's hard to be optimistic about it, to be honest. And that's just my point of view in that regard. But I'm going a bit off topic there, but the comments have been great, guys. And look, I do appreciate your contributions. And don't forget, guys, to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. We are on the road to 5K. We're really close. Trust me, there's a lot of exciting content coming in this quarter of the year. We've a lot of great interviews, opposition previews, tactical previews, you name it. We have absolutely everything over here in All United. So do get over here, do show the support, and we do appreciate every single last one of you who gets comments in, who likes and subscribes, and continuously shows us. Please, I'm losing words. Continuously shows us support, and so do continue supporting All United. We have a great family over here, and that's the key word. We are a big family over here, Manchester United fans. But the final end question, I'm just going to ask Grant, and then finally with Shane. Grant, what's your expectation level, and where do you think we're going to finish this season?
Simply get to the end of the season is my opening sentence, because it's been a shocker right from the very start. It's like a darts player going up against someone else on the stage at the World Championships and throwing a 60 average against someone who's throwing a 105. You've got absolutely no chance of defeating them with that sort of statistics. Genuinely, if we could get past Atletico Madrid, get to the quarterfinals, I would be absolutely delighted. I think it'll be a battle. I think it'll be a tough scrap. I think it'll be a very tactical battle. It'll be very close. I genuinely think we might have a chance, but I would like to say whether we'll win or not. I genuinely think it's a 50-50 game. In terms of the top four, do I see us getting there? I'm like Stu. I said this in the private chat. I genuinely think Wolves are the dark horses in this. Bruno Lage is a very good coach. I think he does extremely well with that squad of players. And by the way, Wolves got some players that I think we'll maybe talk this about in later in other episodes going forward that I think United should be scouting. I think they're in the mix. Spurs are obviously in the mix. Arsenal, amazingly, are in the mix after the shocking start. It's going to be a battle for us. I mean, the next few games for United in the league are massive. Starting on Tuesday night against Burnley. I'm going to plug my own show with Andy Jones from the Opposition Preview. That will go out, I'm sure, very soon. Previewing that game. But I watched Burnley the other night against Watford. That was a very tactical game, very tough game to watch. It was quite poor for both teams. We've got this, and then we've got Southampton. We need to find some form of confidence and form again. And then you got Brighton after that. Brighton are a good team under Potter. That's never going to be very easy. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the Leeds game probably takes care of itself. And then you're into a really busy period. You've got Atletico, the first leg. Then you got Watford. We need to exercise the demons after we lost that game horrendously.
We're getting revenge for Ollie. We're getting revenge for Ollie in that game. Trust me.
That's it. And then after that, March is just monumental. City, Spurs, second leg against Atletico, Liverpool, and then Leicester at the start of April. I think that run of games will decide our season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
I wouldn't disagree. Yeah,
late March, early April is going to be basically what happened in October, November last year, in terms of that run that ultimately defined the end of Ollie's time. I think this similar period will define where we are. But for me, I think just give my expectation just before I go to Shane there. I think for me, top four will happen. I think we'll get it, but I think it's going to be tough. I know Conte's kind of come back to Spurs, but they haven't impressed me. I know they're picking up results, but they haven't impressed me. And I think, look, Tottenham are always going to be Spursy. They always will be Spursy. And I think for me, Tottenham
having no Europe will help Spurs. No
Thursday games. For me personally, Spurs are still Spurs, and they're still Spursy. So for me, I do think when it comes to the final hurdle, we might be shit at it, but they're even worse. So like for me, I would say Spurs will be Spurs. I think West Ham, if they get to latter stages Europa League, I think that could hinder them.
Yeah,
and I think Arsenal maybe because they've no Europe. I think Arsenal are kind of flying under the radar. I think they are a decent team. They're very good attacking players, and I think maybe the only thing that might hinder Arsenal is they haven't replaced Aubameyang. They haven't got a striker in, and they only have Lacazette. If he gets injured, then I think this is where it falls into its favor. So for me, I'd say top four. I'm not saying it's a cert, but I think we can do it. I think Champions League, it's knockout football. Anything can happen, but look, I think top four for me is going to happen. But it might be ugly. I think it might be ugly. I think all teams that could drop points, it may be a case, individual brilliance will probably get us over the line, but it's, it just depends. I'm trying to be positive, but again, it's Sunday. It is Sunday. You're trying to get that positivity going into a Monday morning. It's hard when Man United just consistently leave you down. But Shane, do you think we can get top four this season? Do you think it's achievable, or I suppose, do Man United get a dose of the Dr. Tottenham virus?
I don't know, it's tough. I definitely think that's the best we can hope for. I don't really see us doing much in the Champions League. Like man for man, I definitely think we have the most quality out of the teams going for top four. But I also think we're probably the most dysfunctional of them teams as well. The fact that I see it that it's so much up in the air really says a lot how poor we have been this year. Because I think Spurs have been okay since Conte came in, but they've also still been very wishy-washy. Arsenal have improved this year under Arteta, but I still think they are far cry from a good team. West Ham have been good, but I'm fairly confident they'll fall off. I think they're already kind of starting to slip the last few weeks. So it should be there for us, because I think we have far more quality, but there's just so many players in our team that are so far off being their best selves this year, and I'm not sure if they'll be able to get it together before the end of the season. So it's there for us, but I just don't think we're going to reach out and take it. So I don't feel to. I'm kind of like you, Keen. I'm struggling to find the optimism, but
I think it's a case. I think it's a case. It's probably not going to be pretty, but I think it's going to be a case where it's probably going to be Ronaldo dragging us to top four. That's probably what's going to happen. Big game man for the big occasion. But other than that, like, you can't really rely on some of the other. I suppose, as Roy Keane says, leopards don't change their spots. And I think maybe Cristiano's going to be that man to drag us to top four. I think other than that, it's a tough ask. And look, I think Paul Pogba will be very important in this run. If he can keep fit and stay fit, that's a massive bonus, because I know we lost the other night, but one thing that did impress me is Pogba's ability to keep us ticking. And if Ralph's system is all about control, Pogba would definitely be key to that. But look, I suppose if you're talking about how Pogba will help elevate Ralph's system, that may be a show for next Sunday. We'll see what happens after the Southampton game. But on that note, guys, thanks very much to all three of you for coming on tonight. It's been an absolutely
Pleasure.
Discussion. Comments again, guys. You've absolutely been banging. A very great discussion in the chat tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic. And look, just thanks everyone for staying with us an hour and 26 minutes. Very good show. And look, if you're watching again on Twitter, Facebook, any other social media platforms, do jump over to Off United YouTube channel. Do smash the video. Hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 5K. We will be sure to get there. And when we do, we'll have more and more great and passionate Manchester United content coming your way in that regard. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Hope you have all a good evening. And look, for wherever else left of it anyway. And look, hopefully we can go into this week with some positivity and 6 points. Let's hope we can get that. But until then, guys, thanks very much, everyone, for watching. And look, we'll see you next week.